While the deep undercurrents of faux woke social commentary in Hollywood are anything but secret, Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water carries this trend into a nauseating and previously unreached low. Few movies are so disdainful of subtlety and nuance in the themes they're trying to convey as The Shape of Water. Its name is itself a play on the celebrated race memoir, The Color of Water. Though that's about as clear as this muddled metaphor is going to get. The director strives to hit one solemn note after another, but it ultimately leads to a confusing mishmash of social justice-laden analogies. This film can only be realistically viewed as a celebration of social degeneration and a kick to the dead horse of bigotry. Its heroes are the progressive merry band of a mute janitor and her effervescent black female sidekick, a closeted gay artiste, and a Soviet spy. It's set in Baltimore during the Cold War at a secret government facility. It's this facility that is the top layer of the oppression cake, an amphibian swamp creature brought against his, or its will, depending on how bigoted you want to be. It's only ever referred to as the Asset by his white military male captors, one of whom is our principal antagonist, Colonel Strickland, played by Michael Shannon. Nothing is more predictable than the events which follow. Colonel Strickland whittles away the hours prodding the creature with an electric stick, all for the crime of not meeting his standard of what a human looks like. Each time it groans with pain, it produces a grotesque shriek, which just prompts Strickland to strike it more in disgust. We get some insight as to his warped mentality when he asks Zelda, the janitorial sidekick, what God looks like me, is his resolute verdict. Eventually, Eliza, our mute protagonist, finds her way into the chamber that houses the outcast fishman. At the beginning of the film, we're greeted by her masturbatory connection with eggs, which is brought full circle when she starts feeding them to the fishman. Unfortunately for intolerant viewers, this foreshadows events to come. As the film progresses, Eliza's infatuation with the fishman intensifies and ultimately metastasizes into an undercurrent of romantic tension. The more it's tortured by the steadfastly backward Colonel Strickland, the more her love for the creature grows. This reaches its apex when a fat caricature of what an American general is waddles into the film. He's shown the creature by Strickland, who desperately wants the thing dissected for some disgust-driven reason. The Soviet infiltrator who's masquerading as an American scientist emotionally petitions for the safety of the creature, which prompts the generically heavyset general to sputter, "See these stars? Count 'em, boy. That means I can do whatever the hell I want," or some such, because he's a big, bad white army man. The KGB spy, Bob, is bursting at the seams with empathy for the creature, and later lays the groundwork for its liberation. We've entered an era of American cinema wherein our heroes are Soviets. Peak wokeness is achieved. Time is running out for the heroes and they have to hatch a plot to liberate Fishman from his bondage. Eliza tearfully pleads her gay bald friend to help in her plot to save him, which he doesn't understand. But it turns out that the fishman accepts her, despite her deficiencies, unlike the rest of cruel society. Thus, the portrait attempting to be painted becomes clear. All of the misfits are rebelling against the oppressive categories that refuse to conform around their perfect imperfections. This is highlighted comically when the gay bald artiste frequents a bland pie shop simply to interact with a handsome male pastry waiter. After misreading Pie Man's body language, he leans in to grasp his hand. Fawning in his infinite baldness, he says he would like to get to know him better too. In reaction, the pie bigot is livid. He reminds gay artist that the diner is a family establishment, and demands our misunderstood misfit leave and never return again, all for the sin of being different. Although this instance is so very subtle, the thickness of it gets even more deliciously subtle the more the director thrusts it into the viewer's face, like a cream pie to a clown. The era that is selected for the film is key. The intolerance of the pie man is only meant to run parallel to the true embodiment of this misguided metaphor, Colonel Strickland. In one scene, he returns home after a long day of abusing his power to a picturesque image of the ideal American family. Yet again, we will be shown why this isn't so perfect after all. "America!" Colonel Strickland exclaims in what can only be a fit of Tourette's.
This is America.
This doesn't cause his subservient wife, who's busying herself with preparing dinner, any concern at all. She's much too absorbed by the bondage of traditional gender norms or something. Later on, as he's making traditional love to her, his stumped hand, which was mutilated by the fish, begins to bleed all over her. In response to her protests, he just puts it over her mouth and tells her to be quiet, as is the norm for women in this portrait of America. Although we're never given a medical diagnosis as to why Strickland randomly yells the name of the country in which he's situated, it's safe to say that the director is inviting us to look at the warped nature of what on the surface appears to be beautiful Americana. Beneath the beauty and perfection, a swamp of ugliness lurks. The injustices of the civil rights era are nothing to scoff at, but yet this is what Del Toro makes it appear as, and then some, with The Shape of Water. As the film progresses, Eliza's relationship with the swamp creature takes a bestial turn. She floods the bathroom so as to have underwater copulation with its hidden fish phallus. When she reveals this to her sidekick with the mischievous expression of a toddler who got caught with its hand in the cookie jar, Zelda replies with a zany, "Oh no you didn't." Generally, this is what you'd expect of a couple of co-workers who had a drunken fling, not if your friend copulated with a fish man hybrid from somewhere in Colombia. And yet this is what the film hopes to achieve, the trivialization of degenerating social norms, all's okay under the sun evidently, up to and including bestiality. But in making this case, Del Toro misses that this just does society's misfits a disservice. By creating nauseating imagery of a woman performing sex acts with a fish, you aren't promoting tolerance, you're making people disgusted. Dressing it up as a tolerance-driven romance fails to make it any less repulsive than it is. Creating the association in people's minds of tolerance with bestiality probably won't have the effect it's intended to. Ultimately, the misfit protagonists use how underestimated they are by their white male oppressors against them when they successfully pull off the heist to bust the fish man out. When finally taking stock of what happened, one of the security guards concludes that it had to have been a strike team of 12 highly trained Soviet operatives. Aha! The camera pans to the mute janitor and her companion of color.
Red Army, Special Forces?
Conceivably. I mean, they're highly trained, well-financed, an elite group. Highly efficient, ruthless, clockwork precision. Infiltration took less than 5 minutes, sir.
It's shown to the viewer that the power of tolerance triumphs against all odds, up to and especially the US government. Despite such glaring flaws in the predictable elements and developments of the plot, The Shape of Water has received near universal praise. There's no denying that visually it is stunning and meticulously crafted, but a polished turd is still a turd. The most vocal lovers of this film are willing to overlook structural flaws so long as it dances to the false swan song of trendy progressive beliefs. Anything appealing to degeneration masquerading as tolerance is bound to entrance cosmopolitan critics like flies to a turd.